Amazon संभव 2021 डे 3 में मैं नीलेश मिश्रा आपका स्वागत करता हूं। पिछले 2 दिनों में हमने बहुत सी बातें की, ढेर सारी कहानियां सुनी। कुछ ने हमें दिखाया कि छोटे बिजनेसेस कैसे भारत की आर्थिक वृद्धि में सहयोग दे रहे हैं। कुछ ने हमें बताया कि कैसे टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे देश को आगे बढ़ा रही है, और कुछ से हमने सीखा कि कैसे अब हम लोकल को ग्लोबल लेकर जा सकते हैं। Day 3 of Amazon Sambhav 2021 will focus on bringing innovation to the forefront. Also, later today, we will catch the finalists of the month-long Amazon Sambhav Hackathon present their ideas to the jury panel. The hackathon aims at bringing the community of developers together and enabling development of unique and disruptive solutions towards creating an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Let's dive right in. किसी भी क्षेत्र में आगे बढ़ने के लिए नए नए प्रयोग करना, नई दिशाएं खोजना ज़रूरी है। मैंने भी जब स्टोरी टेलिंग शुरू की थी तो लोगों ने कहा था कि सुनेगा कौन? In today's market, innovation serves as a decisive factor for not only value creation but also growth and employment. To dive deeper into the insights, we have with us Mr. Nandan Nilekani, co-founder and chairman, Infosys Technologies Limited, and founding chairman, UIDAI Aadhaar, in conversation with Mr. Russell Grandinetti, senior vice president, international consumer, Amazon, who will be discussing how innovation can lead to a better India. The session will be moderated by Mr. Mahendra Nerurkar, Vice President and CEO, Amazon Pay India.
A big welcome to Day 3 of Sambhav 2021. The first couple of days have been absolutely power-packed, and I can assure you, Day 3 is going to be just as exciting. I'm very honored to kick off a very special fireside chat with 2 leaders who I immensely admire. Both of them exhibit some common characteristics. Both have a strong passion for large and complex problems. Both personify the spirit of inclusion through innovation. And both have left an indelible impact in terms of lives of hundreds of millions of consumers and small businesses across the world. I have the honor to kick off Day 3 today with a very special chat with 2 leaders who I greatly admire. Nandan Nilekani, a man who needs no introduction, the co-founder of Infosys, who made Infosys into a world leader and now serves as a non-executive chairman. Beyond Infosys, Nandan has been the visionary and the driving force behind the India Stack that has come up with many innovations including Aadhaar, UPI, eKYC, DigiLocker and more, and is used by hundreds of millions of Indians like us. Aadhaar was called the world's most sophisticated ID program by World Bank Chief Economics Paul Romer. And UPI is a payment system that has not only taken India by storm, but the world is sitting up and taking notice, and many countries want to replicate a similar payment system in their own country. So thanks a lot, Nandan, and it's a great pleasure to have you here for this event. Our second guest is Amazon's very own Russ Grandinetti. Russ has been a 23-year-old Amazon veteran who started when Amazon was a small bookstore in the United States and has seen it grow into a household brand name worldwide. In his current role, Russ leads international consumer business for Amazon, where he gets a chance to innovate on behalf of hundreds of millions of consumers worldwide and millions of small businesses who can scale their businesses through Amazon. In a previous avatar, Russ led our Kindle business, where he innovated on behalf of authors and publishers, making their content accessible more easily to readers around the world. So it's a pleasure and an absolute privilege and an honor for me to welcome both of you.
Thank you.
It's very kind. Thank you.
So let me start with you, Nandan, first. Going back to the early days of Infosys before it became a big company, can you remember some learnings from that time that will be useful for our viewers today?
Absolutely, Mahendra. We were actually quite a small company for almost a decade. We began in 1981, and up till 91, 92, we were quite small. But then, India's economic liberalization happened, and we suddenly realized that we were going to face the gale of competition with large companies coming, and the war for talent would go even more. And therefore, we realized that we also had to scale up to survive in this new world. So sometime in the early 90s, we put in place a lot of things like strategic planning, budgeting, putting in training facilities, building our own campus, and all that helped us to grow very quickly after that. So we definitely had a moment when we had to make a decision about our future. And I believe that all of India's small businesses can aspire to become large. And I think when they have partners like Amazon, I'm sure they will do it.
Thanks, Nandan. That's an incredible learning as you start to scale, putting the right processes and the mechanisms that allow you to grow. Russ, coming to you, 23 years ago, small building in Seattle that this whole journey started in. What can you remember from the very early days that you think has been the secret sauce for Amazon that has helped us become the company that it has become today?
I think of two things. The first is, it was, by the way, when I got to the company, it was a four-story building, and customer service was on the second floor. We sold one product from one country. And the most frequent question we got was why the largest bookstore chain in the country, Barnes & Noble, wasn't going to crush us because they just launched their website. And, we were lucky enough to invent in a manner that allowed us to offer a better service. And ultimately, that's what has helped Amazon succeed, is what customers get when they come to our store versus their other choices. And we've obsessed about that since then. And the other thing is, back then, actually, everything we sold, we ordered, we inventoried, and we shipped ourselves. And it was about a year after that we had the smart idea to let other sellers also list in our store. And every single year since then, the percentage of all the items we sell that are sold by someone other than Amazon has grown. That number is now on the order of about 60% of all the units we sell around the world. So making the decision to allow other sellers to come and succeed on the marketplace that we created was very powerful. And obviously that's why we're here today, because we view it as so important to what we want to create. The energy, the passion, the competitiveness that our audience today brings to our customers is essential, and we welcome it. We build for it.
It's a great insight, Russ. And in my shorter journey compared to yours of 12 years, that spirit of continuous invention of Amazon, I feel, just keeps us young, and it still feels like a startup. Which is awesome. So Nandan, this is a slightly tongue-in-cheek question, and I'm sure our audience is really keen to know. But had Infosys not happened to you, where would you have been today?
Well, I think I always had a penchant for public service, Mahendra, and perhaps I would have been a bureaucrat or a government servant or something. But in a very funny way, I got to do that too. And so I had the best of both worlds, being able to be part of amazing journey of Infosys, and also for spending several years in the public sector building population scale systems. So finally, I ended up having the best of both worlds.
It's amazing, very inspiring. So changing gears a bit, COVID has been a big disruption around the world, and small businesses in particular would have been disproportionately impacted. From your vantage point, Nandan, what can you tell small businesses in terms of what they can expect in the months and years to come that they should feel optimistic about?
I think small businesses are the future of India because India has literally millions of small businesses. Just our GST system alone has about 11-12 million businesses registered. And I strongly believe that they are the engines of economic growth and job creation. And I believe that they will have a very good future. I think partly, the reasons are very many. One is that, folks like Amazon are going to give them access to markets both domestically and globally, increasing digitization of our small businesses. So they all have accounting systems, point of sale systems. Now they're filing their GST returns online and so on. And all this means that they're going to generate a wealth of data, and that data can then be used to offer them better services like lending and so on. So I think small businesses are being brought into a digital world, getting access to markets, and can now start leveraging their own data for the future. So I strongly believe that if every small business creates 1 or 2 jobs more, that may mean 50 to 100 million new jobs. So I think this is very important, and I think they have a bright future ahead.
Excellent. And I think the role that data and digitization are going to play, and the enabling technologies that are getting created, I feel is going to be the future forward. So Russ, at Amazon, we often say constraints breed innovation. Through these past months of COVID, what are some of the innovations that you have seen around Amazon that have helped us serve our customers and our sellers better?
Well, I mean, in addition to thinking about customers and sellers, the first thing we had to do right about a year ago today, in most places, was just think about how to keep people safe. So, we have a workforce of about over 1 million people around the world today. Changing how we did business physically in a business whose entire existence is physical delivery had to happen very quickly to try to figure out how to keep business continuous, but keep our people safe. So we made between 100 and 150 fundamental process changes in the flow of goods from when we receive them all the way till they end up on a customer's doorstep from our fulfillment centers and transportation. And that had to happen in a very short period of time without a roadmap or kind of a heads up for the most part. So I'm very proud of the change we made to just do that. And then obviously the shape of demand from customers, we mattered even more to them than they did before COVID, particularly when it came to stocking household items. Even things like getting masks were not simple for us and much less for customers. Now it seems a long time ago, but it all happened in a very short period of time. I'm very proud of the way that we were able to respond. And then finally, there were a lot we had to do to try to change how we served sellers, both because they were changing and what customers needed were changing quickly. So that happened in many places around the world. But I can tell you in India in particular, you could see with how dramatic some of the shutdowns were during periods, how important online became as a lifeline, even for businesses that had been entirely offline before. So we sprang up new programs, one called Local Shops, designed just to help offline retailers build an online presence for their business. And we've brought online 50,000 businesses so far. And our goal over the next 5 years is to make that number 1 million. And we think that's, even that's a small portion of what we just talked about in terms of the long-term opportunity, but has to happen because all businesses ultimately are going to miss an opportunity if they don't find a way to be online. Finally, just for Indian customers, paying became difficult, even just the act of paying. And so with Amazon Pay, we created Pay Later, which gave eligible customers instant access to credit so they could pay later when the act of paying just became more complicated than it had a couple of weeks before. So big changes for us around the world and big changes for us in India. I'm very proud of the way our team rallied and frankly, our selling partners, to give customers what they needed and from e-commerce, which was even more important than it was before.
Absolutely. And I think being a part of that action was super inspiring. So although the work from home introduced some challenges, I think the rate of invention just accelerated, which was great to see.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, in addition to everybody who works in a fulfillment job or a transportation job, everybody who works as an engineer or something else, figure out how to do your same job, but by yourself in your house.
Yeah.
And share a room with your wife or your kids or whatever the thing that you had to do. It was obviously a big change in many different respects.
Absolutely. Nandan, coming back to you, and here I have a small personal anecdote to share with our viewers. I recall being in the audience at this one lecture that you gave at Northwestern University sometime back in 2005. And in that lecture, you outlined what I could tell was a very early vision for the India stack. I must say I was blown away by the audacity of that vision at that time. But to see that vision translate into reality over the next 10, 15 years, where 1.2 billion Indians now have been footprinted with Aadhaar and with many other services that the India stack supports, has been nothing short of a miracle. Can you, with our viewers, share today what's in the pipeline in the years to come from the India stack that they should feel excited about?
Thank you, Mahendra. I think actually in India, over the last decade or so, we have rolled out a lot of the pieces of the digital infrastructure at population scale. Aadhaar is 1.27 billion people using more than 1 billion authentications a month for all kinds of purposes. eKYC, which allows people to open an instant bank account, the Aadhaar-based payment system, which allowed the government to do direct transfer into people's bank accounts in real time. All those things have been, but there's many more things. I mean, UPI, which I'm sure you're using in Amazon Pay, is one of the world's best payment systems, real-time payment system, doing 2.3 billion transactions a month, expected to go to 1 billion transactions a day, and built by NPCI, where I'm an advisor. And then GST, which again benefits your small businesses, because as they learn how to file tax returns electronically, as they learn how to file the invoice details electronically, they're also becoming much more digitally literate. And now they have digital streams that are authenticated by government, which they can use to get credit and other services. I think the other big thing which is happening today is the account aggregator framework, which allows businesses to use their own data for their future. And so an Amazon supplier can, or Amazon on his behalf, can combine not only the data that you have of that company, but also their bank statement or their any other tax returns and so on, and hence get a better deal for them from a lender. So I think the lending boom that is going to happen to small businesses in the coming years is going to be a key driver of growth, because in India, most of the credit has gone only to large business, because it'll be very difficult for banks to really assess the credit worthiness of small companies. Now the data removes that knowledge asymmetry, and this lending will not be for assets, but for flows. So you're actually lending on the strength of the business of the small company. So I think all these things are contributing dramatically. Digital signatures are now free in India. You can sign documents and sign agreements electronically. Face authentication, which allows you to use Aadhaar, not recognition, but face authentication, where you compare the photograph, is also going to make it easier to go online on many use cases. The DigiLocker is a very successful thing in India. So businesses can keep the documents electronically in the DigiLocker. For example, now we have digital certificates for vaccination. So when you vaccinate yourself in India, you get an immediate digital certificate, which is encrypted and signed with a QR code, and that's stored on your behalf in a locker, which can pull out anytime you want. So all this advanced, and all this is at population scale. That means 1.3 billion people can use it. I think all this can be dramatically used by small businesses to provide a more efficient system, deliver more to the consumers, increase sales, and create jobs.
Russ, as you are aware, at Amazon India, we have been wholeheartedly embracing the India stack and its various services, and rolled out a bunch of new experiences for our sellers and our customers. From your vantage point, what do you see as key opportunities for us to serve our sellers and customers better, leveraging some of the capabilities that the India stack enables?
Well, I'll go further and say, I have the privilege of managing Amazon's business in over 20 countries around the world, across Europe, in Japan, Latin America, etc. And I can tell you that both from a business standpoint and in the governments we work with around the world, Aadhaar, the India stack, and UPI are models that everybody not just marvels at, but I think is in some way, shape, or form seeking to emulate. Everybody knows that the future of an identification system and the ease of payment, the digitization of payment, and the standardization and scalability of government services is the proper way for a country at any scale to operate. So I can just tell you, as a non-Indian who does have a pretty broad perspective on the world, that, well, frankly, Nandan and everybody who's helped make this possible have a lot about which they can be very proud, and which is not just doing good for India, but frankly setting an example that a lot of the world is seeking to follow.
Thank you, Russell.
And I just say that, I find this very inspiring at two levels. Number one, as I said, I think these are ideas that have application around the world. But the second thing is, even now, just for a moment, focused on what we're trying to accomplish in India, it creates the environment that make it possible for us to build a service that makes it useful to the audience here. So, for example, since 2019, we've registered 5 million merchants through Amazon Pay and gotten 40 million customers through our service to use UPI.
Wow.
We're obviously not alone. And the more companies like Amazon and our competitors all help these flywheels spin faster, the whole thing rotates better. And so I'm very optimistic about the coming years for India. I'm very optimistic about both what we can accomplish building on this foundation, and then what the audience here today is going to build on top of what we create. And it's that combinatorial reaction that I think has the potential to be so very powerful.
It's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of, I think without UPI, enabling acceptance of payments across 5 million merchants would have been next to impossible. Or enabling expanding selection in categories like bill payments. We keep saying selection, convenience, and price, and UPI has enabled Amazon customers to pay their bills on Amazon. So I think it's just phenomenal. So Russ, you've been very closely involved with the India business for the last several years. What do you see as some big opportunities for us to serve our SMB community better in India?
Well, every time I come to visit our team there, one of the things you are all kind enough to do is actually have me go meet a few of our sellers individually. Actually go to their homes or go to their place of business and see them in action. And I don't need to tell this audience, but I can nonetheless reflect that the scrappiness, the hustle, the ingenuity, the inventiveness of businesses is quite extraordinary. And I think when you create these kinds of systems, it then lets you capture that hustle, that inventiveness, and actually expand it. So even things like GST, which we just mentioned, which now we can let an individual seller reach any Indian through our marketplace, and actually both on the front end with the customer and in running the business itself. Even within Amazon a few years ago, moving stuff across state borders was often not a simple thing to do. And now when we look to the future, we want to help Indian businesses get bigger. So today, or at this conference, we've announced a new fund, a $250 million fund to focus on investment in local Indian businesses, the ones that we see having that big opportunity. And then I think in the years ahead, one of the things we, Amazon, are uniquely positioned to do is actually help Indian businesses not just find customers up and down India, but around the world. And we're in the early innings right now of helping these creative Indian businesses reach European customers, reach American customers, reach customers in any corner of the planet where we happen to operate. And so the infrastructure that's in place, what we're building on top of it, and then again, we happen to be in a fortunate position of having a strong customer relationship and brand and volumes in other parts of the world that are frankly an opportunity for this audience. We're in the early innings, but I think it's going to be many years of very, very big expansion to come.
Great. Hey, this has been a super exciting talk. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I wish we could go on for much longer, but would love to hear some closing remarks from both of you. Over to you, Nandan, first.
I think what Amazon is doing in India is very important, and I would like you to think in terms of how many million jobs you're enabling, because that is the future. For example, if you have 5 million suppliers on your marketplace and each of them creates 5 million jobs thanks to the market expansion you're offering them, then collectively they have the potential to create 25 million jobs. And I think that's the point you have to emphasize, because what India needs most now is job creators, and you have a chance to create jobs at scale.
Thanks, Nandan. Very inspiring. And Russ, over to you.
Well, I'll just say, accept the challenge, because and actually the fundamental building block of the job creation is letting buyer meet seller.
Exactly.
And getting things out of the way. And that is what our business is about in so many respects. And that's what I think this conference in many respects is about. The stack, UPI, Aadhaar, all those things let us get things out of the way so the sellers here can meet the buyers that we can bring, both within India and outside. And if we do our jobs right, if we do our jobs right, those additional jobs will come.
Great.
Hey, thanks, Nandan. Thanks, Russ, both for your time. I personally found this talk extremely interesting and inspiring, and I'll underline the spirit of this, which is really about how to include more buyers, more businesses into the economic fold by driving innovation through data and technology. That's kind of the underlying theme of this, and I think you guys were absolutely awesome in terms of sharing your insights and your stories. So thank you very much for your time. And as for the audience, while this session is wrapping up, do look forward to some of the other sessions that are coming out through the rest of the day, including some masterclasses, course of day 3. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
İki hasret